Right, morning everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. As I told you via the text messages, and I'm going to speak this morning about our recent trip that we went to Kenya in February, from February the 10th to the 21st, I think we were in Kenya, and we went to see how the work was going there, and I will tell a little bit about that mission. But let's just start. I'm going to read a verse for you, and I'm not going to preach on the verse. I'll just read the verse so that you can hear what's going on. In 2 Corinthians chapter 10, 2 Corinthians chapter 10, and verse 15, 16, and 15 to 18. In 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 15 to 18. Not boasting in things without our measure, that is, of other men's labors, but having hope, when your faith is increased, that we shall be enlarged by you according to our rule abundantly, to preach the gospel in the regions beyond you, and not to boast in another man's line of things made ready to our hand. But he that glorieth, let him glory in the Lord. For not he that commendeth himself is approved, but to whom the Lord commendeth. Just speaking about the regions beyond, and Kenya was one of those regions beyond what I know as regions beyond me. In the year 2000, I established a missions ministry called Graceway Bible Ministry. You'll notice our church is also called Graceway Bible Church. After our moving here, we decided to change the name from the church, from Berean Bible Church to Graceway Bible Church. And so we started Graceway Bible Ministry in 2000. My wife and I started the missions ministry for the express purpose of preaching the word and teaching the word to faithful men that we found in Africa and wherever else, and so that they can go teach other faithful men. So we started this mission ministry not as a typical missions ministry where we go out into an area, plant a church and build a church building and then invite people in, but we wanted to find faithful men. And one of the first guys that I've been communicating with was the guy Simon. You'll see him on your picture. Simon is the last guy at the end there. And Simon and I was communicating from maybe 99 onwards. We're communicating via email and telephone calls. And he had a keen desire to know right division and to know it better and to learn more about it and stuff. And so in 2000, he invited me to come and to teach for the very first time, to teach a group of men and women there for a whole week, the word rightly divided, to teach him and charts and stuff. And he had a chart that he drew with his own hand and put it on the marketplace, and he was preaching this message on the marketplaces with his chart out there. And so he wanted me to come and preach the word there. And so that's how this ministry started. I went there, and then every year I went back, and sometimes twice a year, and I went to minister there and communicated the gospel and saw the work going on. That was until about 2006. 2007 we moved here, and so my ability to move to Kenya and back was a little bit hampered because I didn't have an American passport. I just have a South African passport, and was just a lot of things. It was difficult. We're in the process of getting permanent residence. We're in the process of getting our citizenship, and that took all in all about 10, 11 years to do all of that. And so I haven't been back in Kenya like in 14 years, but obviously we've been communicating all the time, and we've been sending materials, sending Bibles, having many students going through our course that we provided for them to go through the school. And Simon has been heading up that work, and Simon has been faithful. But going back this year, I wanted to see how the work is faring. How is it, confirming the work, how it's going. And so on February the 8th, myself and Matt Holly is the guy at the end. He's from Miami Valley Bible Church in Ohio. Him and I met up in New York on Saturday night, stayed the night there, and the Sunday morning we flew from New York to Nairobi, which is about a 15 hour flight. And we arrived on the 10th in Nairobi at 10 a.m. in the morning. We went through customs, no problem, because we had e-visas, and we got our currency converted for the money that we're going to need for the couple of weeks that we were going to be there. And then we went outside and in true African manner waited for the guys to show up who were a few hours late, standing outside there waiting for them. But in their defense, Simon and Festus and Jeffrey, this is Jeffrey, Festus, and Simon, they went to pick up some Bibles in Nairobi. I asked him to pick up 100 Bibles, which we were going to distribute while we were out there. And so we got there and got the car showing up there, and we were using Jeffrey's car, and they promised me the car was going to be perfect, and the car wasn't as perfect as we thought it was going to be. I was going to rent a car, so I ended up paying him to rent his car, and it ran on 3 cylinders, maybe 2.5, 3 cylinders at a time. And it was, we were in 2 minds, and eventually we decided we're going to go, because we had to go from Nairobi to Embu, which is like a 3-hour drive north from Nairobi. And so we went out there and got in the car and struggled through the traffic and everything else. And for Matt, it's the first time that Matt has been in Kenya or in Africa. And when in high school, he went to Russia for a mission trip, for a high school trip. But it was a little bit bewildering for him with all the people, just people everywhere, and the roads. There's no traffic lights, and it's just crazy, And so we got out of, as soon as we got out of Nairobi, we got into the more rural areas, and the road was better, but the car was running terribly. Halfway through this, the car just stopped running, And we went over a bump, and it just went, and just died on us. I got out there, myself and him got out there, and we in the mode and just pulling plugs and thing, and eventually we got the thing back running on 3 cylinders or 2.5, whatever it was. And we labored with the car. But anyway, these guys met us. Jeffrey is a pastor in Nairobi, and Festus has been there. Jeffrey and Festus has been there since day one. I've met them since the first time I've been out there. And, these 3 guys here, basically, Simon and Festus are the main guys who runs the ministry out in Kenya, and they go to every week, a couple of times, 2-3 times a week, they go to various villages, and they go and preach the message. They go preach the word, rightly divided. They preach the school classes that we've provided for them, because we do Graceway Bible Ministries and Grace School of the Bible. We do that course, and the course that we do with them is not a full Grace School of the Bible course yet, but it's basics of fundamentals of Bible study, the book of Romans and Daniel and Matthew and a few other things, a manuscript evidence, some, and things like that, And so that's what we put the students, that's what they've been teaching the students. So we met these guys, and we arrived there. And so Simon, like I said, Simon and I have been friends for a long, long time, and he's a faithful brother. And there's a picture of him and myself and him in the previous one, and Matt and him and him in front of his church. That's a tea plantation you see behind him. There's tea plantations all over the place, and coffee plantations when you get to the central part of Kenya there. Anyway, so like I said, I've met him a long time ago. That's Simon's family. It's his wife Caroline, his daughter Cassidy, and his son Delvin. And so, he's been running that work and just faithfully teaching the word. I must say, when we got there, I was uncertain what I was going to find. The first day was terrible to get to Embu, then the first day of actual ministry going out, starting to go to the villages, the roads were terrible. I'll show you about that just now. But that's Festus and his wife Sarah. And so, both these men have their own little business. They have a little business that they run to try to get them to get some income. And we, Graceway Bible Ministries, support Festus and Simon on a monthly basis for them to get into all the places and pay for their motorcycles and their traveling and printing and everything else that they do there. Okay, so that's me. When we preach there, when we went to preach there in the villages, we preached through interpreters. They translated for us and stuff, and a lot of times we didn't really need them, but it means we got hampered because the people won't understand exactly what we say. You can understand English, but when you preach, you kind of tend to go, even you guys sometimes say you don't understand me, never mind, And so we had interpreters preaching for us, and Simon and myself, I know Simon for a long time. Simon knows me and I know him. And so I would be preaching, and I'd be halfway through my sentence, and he would always already start, translating, and giving it. So him and I we were on real we understood one another. Matt had to learn a little bit. Matt had to learn a little bit about preaching through an interpreter, and but he catch on very quickly, and he did. I must say, Matt, he was an asset to the ministry there, because I was thinking about taking somebody with, and he just fitted in right well, and the people liked him, and he did really well. This is a typical teaching. This is just a greeting while I was teaching.
By the way, before I read this, I bring greetings. From our church, Graceway Bible Church. I bring greetings from other churches around us. And also I bring greetings from the president of Grace School of the Bible, Richard Jordan. He wants to assure me baptized before.
This is Matt teaching.
Well, they weren't going to accept me as a member of their church.
Titus was his interpreter.
And you ask them what is baptism, and they would say it's a symbol, an outward sign.
Anyway, so he learned Titus, and Titus did a real great job. And Titus is also one of the teachers there now that's been teaching this message in other villages too. So the men are growing, the faithful men are growing, and and I was really, really surprised when I got there and I started hearing the testimonies, because the first day you see these roads, we got on these roads, and they were made for, like, if you had a 4x4, in a Jeep, you would smile when you see these roads. The off-road guys would love to ride there. And that's just everyday roads for these guys, And so we went on this road with a sedan, and we never thought we were going to make it to the end of it, but we eventually got there. The first day was just, the roads were just really, really bad. This is very narrow. The car just wiped on the sides there. And there's a couple of pictures of the roads. Beautiful country, beautiful areas, and so, so the first day we had to travel to this village called Soko. They call it Soko maggot. You know what a maggot is, obviously, right? From a fly and stuff. They call it Soko maggot. We got to this place, and it was just a few little places out there in the middle of nowhere. And by the way, this place that we were at there, you cannot find that on a Google map. It's not any, you will not find it on a map. Okay, I tried to look for it. I couldn't find it, but I know I was there. Okay, so, and so we get, so we get in this village, and we started meeting these folks out there, these men and women in this village, and we went to meet in a little church building that they had, was a full gospel church building, where we were preaching Right of Vision, and the preachers were sitting there, and they were listening, and the students were coming together there, and it was just fantastic, and the receptiveness to the doctrine, the receptiveness to what they've learned. They've said that some of the people that first time heard these things said, "We've never heard this. Why is nobody teaching this?" But there was a bunch of students there that's gone through the school and really excited about this, And so that's the church building inside. So next time you start complaining about our building, okay, I'm going to show you some buildings here today that you can think about. So these are all students from the school, And by the way, the women there are putting the men to shame because they're faithful. They study, and they just and so it is very interesting. So this is after the first day. And after being really, really encouraged by these guys' testimonies from the students to hear that they understand this message, they understand the word rightly divided, they understand what God is doing today, it was very encouraging. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean there's a few things that we picked up and heard that we thought, that needs to be, they need to be taught about that. It's obviously, And so, but we've been handing out Bibles. That guy's name is, I believe his name is Alfred, and he's, and this is he's the pastor out there, and he's handing out King James Bibles, and everybody's getting a King James Bible, and they're really excited about this, And there's some of the folks, some pictures there, and I've got lots of pictures about the ministry there that we've seen, and this lady was so friendly, it's just, and just, the kids were they were all around us and stuff, and there's another pastor and his wife, and, just excited about this message and getting to understand it, and we're so excited about that, and for the privilege to preach the word there. Now, this is typical singing there, okay? And so this is just, I like this song because it says, it's only you, Lord, it's only you, God, we only worship you, we only believe in you, we only trust you. It's basically what the word is saying. Anyway, so the singing was very lively. At times it was very, very dancey and things like that. And Matt and I would just stand there and just, really getting into the rhythm there, But it's Africa, what can I say, And so there's two guys out there. There's Frederick and think of the guy's name, Cyprian. Now, it's Frederick there. You see the red turban he's got on his head? That was in the Kararema, where we got into Kararema. Was another village, the second day of our visits there. And Frederick was out there with the students, and he started to hear the word rightly divided maybe a year or so ago, and he started learning about it. And you see the red turban he's wearing is the Acarino. If you look in African Acarino, it's a mixture of African culture or their predecessors' culture versus Christianity. Is a mixture of the two. They believe they're Israel, and that's all the stuff that they believe, And I was surprised that he was even still wearing the turban, but he's been teaching this message that he's been learning to about 4 or 5 different house groups that he goes to and teach what he's learning from the word rightly divided to the people, Acarino people, And some of the places have told him not to come back and stay away and what have you, because he's preaching a contrary doctrine to them. And so Cyprian is another guy there. He's a Catholic, and he came to understand God's word rightly divided. And he's teaching another 80-plus people the word rightly divided. And he wanted 80-plus Bibles to take with him, which we didn't have to give to him quite to go out there. But these guys are, man, they go into you get into a village, there's not even a village. There's 4 or 5, 6 buildings. And before you know it, there's 30 people coming out from everywhere. And they live in mud huts, and they live in no electricity, no running water, nothing. And these folks understand God's word rightly divided, and they love it. By the way, Simon, on this picture before, Simon, first time I met him, he says, I've memorized most of Paul's epistles. I'm like, what? No way, And he said, yeah, no, I've memorized it in English, And I said, okay. So the one day I sat there and I opened Ephesians. I said, start. And he quoted the whole book of Ephesians. He quoted it. Okay? And he lives on a mountainside between banana trees and avocado trees and stuff. And he lives in a mud hut, single room mud hut. And he's quoting the Bible books, Paul's epistles like this. And he's preaching it on the marketplaces and stuff. And so, I look at these guys and I'm like, their life is so simple. But because their life is so simple, their focus is the work of the ministry. Our lives get so complicated, and so we got so much stuff that we focus on, and so our time gets really diluted that we need to put it in the ministry. These guys, it's the ministry. It's basically what they do, And so it's very exciting to see this type of thing going on there. And this is in Kararema. And it was hot here. We drive about 2 hours and we get to this place. It's in a valley. It's in a valley, and it's just hot. It's like desert, semi-desert hot in there, And there's some of the guys visiting out there. Lunchtime, we had, they made us up nice food. This place called the Berean tavern. I don't know what a tavern is, but a tavern I know what's a tavern, but a tavern I don't know. But it's the Kandega Berean Fellowship. That's where Titus Home Church is. And Titus Home Church, the amount of students that has come out of this little building, and it's in this church, which is, by the way, in the middle of nowhere again. You just have this little building sitting on a part of a farmland, and there's people just showing up there. And these are students from that, from Kandega. And this is all students from Titus and Festus teaching these students there. And the word rightly divided. What we teach here, they teach there, And by the way, I wanted to show Robert here, but he's not here this morning. But that is a drum set they have, okay? So it's a modern drum set, okay? And so here's some testimonies we have. That is Titus standing there with one of the guys, and I don't remember this guy's name, and I have to ask Matt. Maybe Matt remembers his name, because Matt wrote all the names down. And he was giving testimony of what God's word rightly divided means to him and how much he's learned from that, And it's just, man, you know what? You see people being excited about God's word, and that rightly divided. And here's Titus and Festus giving testimony. You see the picture on the wall in the back there? And there's this lady, just a picture of a lady sitting following in the Bible. And by the way, they were taking notes all the time, and following in our Bibles, taking notes, listening careful, and asking questions concerning what they've been learning, And there's I like this, there's a very nice, kind. She was one of the sisters there in the church there, and I like also the colors. I like the bright colors that's been worn, And so there's a church there in Kararema, and that we must meet it in this hall here, which is like a public hall. It was not a church building; it's just a public hall, but no windows, no doors, nothing. It's just a building structure that's out there. And a bunch of teachers came out there, and this guy sitting there with a blue outfit there. He's a pastor from the local area, Pentecostal pastor, and he came in because he's been hearing the guys been talking about it, and he was listening, and he was like, he was just sitting there with a very staunch face and like, And but we have Q&A time, and so he asked a few questions, good questions. And we were able to answer him according to his question. He was like, wow, and he's going to want to do more about this, want to learn more about this. And he's possibly going to join the classes, okay? And so this lady, I think it's Maggie. I think her name's Maggie. And she's an old saint who knows God's word. She's a midwife. And she knows the word rightly divided. And she loves her Bible, And she says, take a picture of me with the Bible, And she just really, and she's talking to people about this, And this typically we had some of the church buildings we got to had blackboards that's painted on. And we were able to teach on those boards the word rightly divided, and the time passed, but now in ages to come and the whole thing. And the previous one was Matt's handwriting. You can clearly see. This one is mine. You can clearly see the handwriting is terrible. But, and so this group here, now what do you see? You see the sign there? Simon got a guy to make him a sign, and Grace Gospel Bible Believers, and the guy made a mistake when he wrote Believers. But when he's made this chart already, and Simon has paid him, and he checked it out, this guy says, no, that's it, I'm not doing it over, so that's the chart for now. So they believers, not believers, okay? But this is Simon's home church. This is a very small, tiny little building in Mufu area. And Simon, the group of guys that you see there, all those people there, they are teaching this message. These old guys at the end there, right at the end there, John and these guys, they go to the marketplace and preach the gospel and evangelize in the marketplace and share this message and hand out tracts. They actively involved in doing the work there. And Simon has done a great job. The old guy, I can't remember his name now, but Malachi, I can't maybe, but he is just he's so, I don't know how old he is, but he is still talking about the gospel to people where he comes, where he goes in the market areas and what have you. And so we had a great time at Simon's Church here. And yes, some people that want to, everybody wants to take pictures with us, Matt did a great job with the young people. Yeah, Matt is teaching some of the young people a basic gospel outline and how they can teach with a basic help, little pamphlet thing that he had that he folded out with colors, how he can preach the gospel to other young people and stuff like that. And they were really keen in listening to this. Like I said, the children liked Matt, and I think it's that big beard, We were out there. One of the people, just about every village we get to, they ask him, Are you Jewish? Are you a Jew? He says, why? Because he's got this beard, and I know I'm not a Jew, And so the one day we're in Embu, that's the day we pick up the part that I figured out what was wrong with the car, and we fixed the car about 3 days in, and I figured out what was wrong, and we were able to pick up a part, and we fixed the car right in the middle of the road there, and put the part in, and it worked well after that. But, we're out there, and Matt gets out the car, and there's a guy walking past, a couple of guys walking past there, and he says, look, there's Jesus, And I said, no, it's not Jesus. Well, let me tell you about him, And so just yet, there's a big old beard, and the kids liked selfies with him, and he did a great. This is in Simon's Church. We've got that building, that small building, packed out with people were sitting outside, and they were just and we were there all day. We preached from the morning from 10 to about 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And they just packed that place out, and it's hot, but they were excited about what they were learning, And lots of testimonies that we hear there too. Here's a testimony from one of the brothers there, and very excited about the message, and what he's learned about God's word rightly divided, And we heard a lot of testimonies throughout the time there, and obviously what we do, and we eat too, And so there's me eating a mango, and you see the guy's hand in my leg there? So he's put his hand on my leg, You'd be walking in the street, and they would be talking to you, and they would take your hand and hold your hand while you're walking in the road. It's not weird, okay? It's culture, okay? Yeah, I'm not going to walk with Todd down the road and hold his hand, okay? Because it's just wrong. It's just wrong, But there, you can have 2 guys grabbing your hands and just holding your hands while they're talking to you, And so, just beautiful people with a spirit in them that loves the truth and loves the word and loves the Lord and wants to know more and wants to know more. I was teaching in this church, and I taught about what I'm teaching right now in the Sunday morning about the outlay of Paul's epistles, and a couple of people was like, we've never heard that. That is so good. That is so, oh man, can we get more of that? Please, please, please. Can you send us anything you have? More, please, Just wanting to hear more, That's Simon's wife and Festus's wife. Just listening. This lady here, she's a high school teacher. She's a high school teacher, and she's teaching the school children. And in the school, you're allowed in the schools to preach this message. You can go to the school and preach there. The government has got no problem with you preaching the Bible, okay? And so they go in there and preach, and they use the Bible as a handbook for reading and things like that, And she was giving testimony of the things that she's learned through the school and the materials that we've gone, and the people that she's been teaching this to, and she's was really excited about that, There's a couple of guys just listening to us while we're talking, or maybe Matt was speaking. There's a testimony here again. Now this church is in Nairobi. So the first week, the first 5 days, how's our time there? Okay, we got 15 minutes. So in the first week, we spent 5 days in Embu area, and we went to villages for 5 days, different villages, to visit the different groups. And we didn't get to see all of them also. And then the second week, we were planning to go to, we had plans and made plans to go to Kisumu, which is Western Kenya, which is an 8-9 hour road trip from where we were, And I said to Matt, we can't drive this car from here to there, okay? Because we're destroying this guy's car too, because the roads are so bad. And so we decided to go back to Nairobi, and fly out from Nairobi to catch a flight, which is a 45-minute. You just hardly get up and you're down in Western Kenya. So we fly out to Western Kenya. And really, in hindsight, we should have stayed in Embu area for 2 weeks because the students needed to hear more from us, and especially the faithful men. So when I go back next year, and early next year I'm planning to go back, I'm going to spend 2 weeks only with the faithful men teaching. Just spending time, quality time on strategic planning about getting the ministry more mobilized, helping the guys to get more, the work out there more, teach. But this church is in Nairobi, and this is Jeffrey's church. And when we got into Nairobi, the church in Nairobi was visibly different to the churches in Embu. The little village churches, the people were warm. They wanted to hear more. We got to the city, and they were just, you will see some of the pictures. The guys are standing like this when they're singing. They had even adopted the worship, praise and worship type of all the same clothes and, loud music and things like that. However, Jeffrey is teaching this message to some degree, and but definitely there's a difference between the city mentality of the people in Nairobi versus the country. And the folks in the country was more warmer, more desirous of the truth, wanting to know more, wanting to hear more. And the city people were just like, this is a church service, let's get it over with and so that we can go, And so that's typically some of the pictures you see there. This is in Western Kenya. This is a group in Western Kenya. And after the first week of ministering every day in these various villages, we came to the conclusion they need more of our time, because we just met with the groups. Now we needed to meet with all the men, and we didn't have the time because we had to travel to Western Kenya, which is 2 days out of our trip just for traveling, And so, but I promised this guy, right at the end, you'll see him. His name is Cosmos Maloa, and I've been communicating with Cosmos for many, many years. Sending him materials. He's gone, I believe, students has gone through the school, and which he's made the material available. But when we got to Kisumu in the Western Kenya area, these people had no clue what we were talking about. They had never heard this stuff. Festus talked about, not Festus, he was talking about grace, but he didn't understand the message. He didn't know, like Simon and those guys, Now, we were disappointed. But it's part of the deal. You have to go out to find out how's the work doing, And so we felt that time could have been better spent in, but we did preach there. The guy right at the end, his name is Kevin. And, Peter. And he is starting to get it. And I've been communicating with him. I just communicated in a couple of days with him. And he wants the materials, he wants more, and he wants to be mobilized. But at this stage, everything is closed up for them to move around there, But I'm going to set him up, and he's going to come to Central Kenya next time. That is Cosmos there, And, sometimes you get to the church and he wants to, and he had the nicest church of everybody. The building was nice, had windows, floors were nice, big black board, all windows had open and closed, doors could lock. He had a house and everything else. But, he was more interested in the ministry as a ways and a means than getting the word out. It's more a business to him than it was. And it's part of the learning process that we, because, but, we stayed in a hotel in Western Kenya, and you see that steel gate there? We were locked on the first floor behind that steel gate. And I'm like, why do you lock it? No, people will come in and steal and whatever, do the things. And it was a little wild in that area, And so we got locked up, and I'm like, how will we get out there if there's a fire, Because we locked in under steel gates. And so I looked in the bedrooms, and, there's windows, and I looked out to the first floor, and Matt and I figured out, we know how to get out of here, We've got an escape plan, But they were locking us up there because of theft, and the people were not too friendly in that area. There's a typical room that we stayed in with a mosquito net. This is one of the ladies listening to the message being preached again. There's some of the ladies and these ladies in Western Kenya really, they took notes too. So I don't want to punish them because the guy is not faithful, So we have to work on ways that we can communicate with them so that they can learn better the message, you know. And so, and as you see the word, the church ministry there is Graceway Bible Ministry. After I was there I visited there the first time, I came back and he says, I'm Graceway Bible Ministries now, you have to support me. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way, you know. He just registered it, and now I have to pay him because he's doing my work there. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way, you know. And so that should have been a given way in the beginning, you know. But we did preach the word, and we did preach Right Division there. And some of the folks there says, why is nobody teaching us this? And they're upset that they've never heard this before. And that message has been available in that church, been made available by us in that church for the last 15 years. You know? And so why is it not being taught, you know? And so there's typical some foods that we ate there. The food were all very healthy and organic, you know. There was no, you go to the store and buy a pre-meal that you heat up in the microwaves. There's no microwaves. Everything gets cooked outside, not in the house like a kitchen, like you and I have a kitchen. And that was rice, beans, and chicken. That chicken was walking around that morning when we got there. It was still free-ranging that morning. By the afternoon, we had it, okay? We were staying in this hotel that we stayed in. This girl walks in with 10 chickens between her fingers like this, upside-down chickens. She's walking in there with they're alive still, and she's walking in there. And I saw her, I just didn't take notice of I saw and took notice of her walking by and let it be. And later on, I went out and there she's busy slaughtering the chickens in the back in the hotel in the backyard hotel. And so it's fresh, guys. Everything's fresh, you know. Mangoes were obviously, that is my favorite food there because it's chapati. It's like a bread thing a dough thing that you do, and it's really good with the food. There we have some goat potatoes, and like in a soup. And by the way, that when you eat that meat, it's full of little bones because nothing gets cut. It gets chopped. The meat gets chopped up, you know, and it's stuff, and it's goat, you know. It's meat, it's food, it's good, you know. I had no problems with my stomach the whole time that we were there, you know. And so that's like a bean stew type of thing. And there's rice, lots of rice, everyday rice. Rice is a staple food, and people grow rice there. You know, there's rice fields. We went through these rice paddies and stuff everywhere there, you know. And then you get next to the road, and they've got these big open sheets. And I think I have a picture or so of that. And it's just, they put the rice on it to dry, you know. And that's the kitchen, ladies and guys that like to cook. That's the kitchen, okay. Beans and rice is going to be cooked out, say, on the fire, and we're going to eat, you know. And so what is that? That is the outhouse, okay? And that's an outhouse. I'm just taking a picture of it, okay? Just take a picture of, you know, and so your aim needs to be good, you know? And so, and hopefully you don't have other problems, you know, when you have to use that, you know? And that's a typical from the side, you know, picture of, and that's a nice one. When you get into the villages, it's just a little few sticks with branches that's closed it off, and there's a hole being dug in the ground with sticks being put on it, and you stand on this thing, and it's moving like this, you know. And you go you're going to have to use the bathroom because that's the only place you have to use, and then you have to contend with 5,000 flies, you know, and all the time. And so that's interesting, you know. What's that? Exactly the same place that we use. Everybody uses the same place, okay. This is the last picture I have. This is Simon and Festus. We took them to a restaurant in Nairobi, which is the Hardee's. Believe it or not, a Hardee's. They had a Hardee's in Nairobi. And this is the second time Simon ate a hamburger. And it's the first time that Festus ate a hamburger and fries. Never had it before, okay? And Simon, the first time I took him to have a hamburger, also in Nairobi when we were back to the airport. And I bought him a hamburger and fries, and he says he's never had it, but he'll try it. And so I bought it, and we ate it. And I asked how it is. He says, yeah, it's good. It's fine, you know. And so I asked him, will you buy this again when we finished? And he said to me, no, never. I said, why not? He says, because he saw what I paid for the 2 burgers and fries. He says, I can feed my family for a whole week on rice and beans for that money, you know. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know. And so you know, life is simple there. But, you know, they love, the people love the truth of God's word, and they're receptive. Their hearts is ready. They with readiness received it and searched the scriptures. And I'm so thankful that I was able to be I'm part of that, and been able to help those faithful men to teach other faithful men. And I can just see the work expanding more and more. And so we want to thank all of you that has been supporting us in making this this type of ministry available. But the work is, this church is going up all over the place through this ministry. And we just, thankful for what the Lord is doing. Some of us water, or some of us plant, and some of us water, but God gives the increase. God's doing the work in the lives of these believers. And it's really, really encouraging to see the desire for the truth. More than I see it here in the U.S., You can walk to anybody on the street and start talking to them about the gospel, and they won't just shun you, They're just more open to it, And so there is profit in having less, and having less exposed to you than just what we have around us, And so, the simplicity in Christ, and the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money, not money, but the love of it. And sometimes we chase after things, and so many things that we chase after, and it comes at a cost to the work of the ministry. So, and we're just excited to be part of these guys, and I thank the Lord for these faithful men, and I thank the Lord for what He's doing in their lives. And we thank you for praying for these ministries and being part of that. And so thank you for listening this morning. If anyone have a question, go ahead, and if anybody wanted to ask something. Was that letting you in a little bit about what was going on there? Yeah? Yes, you have toilet paper. Matt and I both had a toilet roll in our bag. We always take toilet rolls back, because sometimes it's just newspaper, or sometimes a leaf. That works just as good. Okay? So, but that's when you're out there, We were fortunate this time. We stayed in a hotels, which were not fancy, but it was comfortable. The last night, we had to fly back to the US, and we couldn't find our hotel. We got lost. We traveled, and we just got lost. We ended up in a village in the middle, not a village, like a township. And we ended up in dead end. There's no roads. And we ended up in this place, and it's like ditches and stuff, and it's just people. And I'm like, we're stuck in here. We're in trouble, man, And so eventually, after jumping a few ditches and had to go over a railway line, get out the car, help the car over the railway line, and then we got to a canal, and we couldn't get over the canal. We were stuck. And we can see the airport on the other side there, but we were stuck here, And Google Maps don't work in Kenya, okay? By the way, I'm just saying. So eventually there was this place that people can walk over the canal, and it's just wide enough for a car. But on the other side, a car with breadth on the other side, there's a what you call it, a barricade, a little barricade, just a shallow one. And so we got out of the car, helped the guy just slowly but surely, and we made it to the other side. And then we had to jump this barricade, got out the car again, otherwise the car gets stuck. We got the car over there, and then we couldn't find the hotel. And so Google Maps said the hotel is right there, and we're standing, there's no hotel here. And apparently the hotel was back up the mountain, and we just came back down from, And it's like, we're not going back there. So we found this other hotel for the night, and we couldn't find that either. And so we asked the guy next to the road. He had a little motorcycle, because they transport their motorcycles, little motorcycles. And he said, look for those. I said, I know where it is. So we paid him to take us there, to lead us there. And we got and it was like a nice hotel, It was it's a tourist hotel, So the food was good, and we had a shower and air conditioning for the first night. That was nice, the last night, But, I'm just a spoiled American right now, so what can I say, So, yes. No, and this is Kenya. This is central part of Africa. The language is Kiswahili, mostly, okay? And there's various different dialects of Swahili that up there, okay? And so Afrikaans is a Dutch descent language. And so they don't speak Afrikaans up there. You have to go to South Africa to speak Afrikaans. Kiswahili, I don't speak Kiswahili. And I can understand a few words like, Mungu ni mwema means God is good, and Bwana asifiwe, praise the Lord, and can say, hello and that type of stuff, But I can read it. I can read it from the Bible to them because the pronunciation of the Kiswahili is very similar to English pronunciation. So you can learn to read that, But no, so it's English and Swahili. And there's various dialects, depends on where you are in Kenya of the dialect. So.
How many of the people actually speak English to where if they had a King James translation, they can actually read it and understand what they're reading?
All the Bibles we hand out is King James Bibles, English King James Bibles, and they can read it. Most of the people, they get school. Kenya was a British colony. It was a British colony, so they learned to speak English. And so they speak. Most people speak English. A lot of the older people and stuff obviously cannot, but all the younger generation and all the, the what we call the baby boomers and those guys, they can speak. They can speak English. So we could be understood and communicate with the folks. All right. Thank you, guys.